The year is 1718. A Dutch merchant ship spots another vessel on the horizon flying Portuguese colours. The captain relaxes. Portugal is neutral, no threat here. The ships draw closer. At 200 yards, something changes. The Portuguese flag drops. A black banner rises in its place, decorated with a skull and crossed bones. Gun ports that seemed sealed suddenly slam open, revealing 40 cannons. Where the deck appeared empty moments before, 100 armed men materialize. The merchant captain has exactly 10 seconds to decide, surrender or die. This transformation from harmless vessel to deadly predator happened thousands of times during the Golden Age of Piracy. The mechanics of these ambushes were precise, calculated, and devastatingly effective. Pirates didn't stumble into success through random violence. They orchestrated complex deceptions that required timing, intelligence, and an understanding of human psychology that would impress modern military strategists. Long before any ambush began, pirates had to identify their target. This wasn't guesswork. Years at sea taught them to read ships like books from miles away. The distinctive broad hull of a Dutch fleet meant valuable cargo space, but minimal armament, maybe 6 cannons at most. A Spanish galleon sat lower in the water when loaded with silver. English merchant vessels had specific sail configurations that distinguished them from French designs. Pirates studied these details obsessively. They knew that merchant ships deliberately carried small crews to maximize profit. A vessel that might hold enormous wealth could have as few as 12 sailors aboard. Meanwhile, a typical pirate ship carried between 50 and 100 men, creating overwhelming numerical superiority before the fight even began. The mathematics of piracy were ruthless. Every pirate ship operated on what they called no prey, no pay. If you didn't capture anything, you earned nothing. If the cargo got damaged during capture, its value dropped. If the ship itself was too damaged to sail, the entire venture failed. This economic reality shaped every tactical decision. The approach phase began when pirates identified a suitable target. Most merchant captains, seeing another ship, would try to determine its nationality and intent. Pirates exploited this natural caution. They maintained multiple flags from different nations, choosing which to fly based on their target's likely sympathies. If approaching an English merchant, they might fly French colours if France and England were at peace, making the English captain less suspicious. Distance mattered enormously. At 2 miles, determining a ship's true nature was nearly impossible. Details blurred, flags were hard to distinguish, and the number of crew on deck couldn't be accurately counted. Pirates needed to close to within 300 yards for their deception to work. Close enough that escape became impossible once they revealed themselves. The practice of flying false flags wasn't piracy's invention. Naval warfare had used this tactic since the 16th century. International maritime law even recognized it as legitimate, with one requirement: you had to reveal your true colors before firing. Pirates took this military convention and weaponized it for criminal purposes. The approach required every crew member to play their part. Most pirates would stay hidden below deck or lying flat behind the ship's rails. Only a skeleton crew remained visible, dressed to match whatever nationality they were impersonating. Bartholomew Roberts, who captured over 400 vessels during his career, perfected this theatrical deception. His crew rehearsed their roles like actors. When approaching under false colours, designated crew members would engage in mundane activities, repairing sails, swabbing decks, anything that looked routine and unthreatening. Meanwhile, below deck, the real crew checked weapons, loaded pistols, and prepared grappling hooks. The tension during these approaches was extreme. Pirates had to maintain their disguise while maneuvering into attack position. Too eager, and the merchant might grow suspicious. Too slow, and the target might simply sail away. The ideal distance was about 200 yards, close enough that the merchant couldn't escape, but far enough that the pirate's true nature remained hidden. Communication between ships followed established protocols. Merchants would often hail approaching vessels, asking their business. Pirates prepared standard responses. Bound for Jamaica with cloth goods, or from Barbados carrying sugar. These lies had to be delivered confidently by crew members who could mimic appropriate accents. One wrong word, One suspicious gesture and the entire deception collapsed. Some pirates went beyond simple flag changes. They altered their ship's profile by adding fake cargo on deck or adjusting sail configurations to match typical merchant vessels. The pirate captain Stede Bonnet, despite his incompetence in other areas, successfully disguised his ship by painting over gun ports and adding false merchant markings. Weather conditions added complexity. Approaching during fog or rain helped hide details but made navigation dangerous. Bright sunshine revealed too much. The ideal conditions were overcast skies with moderate wind, enough visibility to navigate but not enough for detailed observation. Pirates often waited days for the right conditions to attempt their approach. The reveal was choreographed violence. When pirates reached optimal distance, everything happened simultaneously. The false flag dropped, the black flag rose, gun ports opened, armed men appeared. This transformation took less than 60 seconds, but determined everything that followed. The Jolly Roger itself was psychological warfare. Early pirates flew red flags, signaling no quarter would be given. Black flags evolved later, decorated with symbols of death, skulls, skeletons, hourglasses. Each captain designed their own variant. Blackbeard's showed a skeleton holding an hourglass and spear, pointing at a bleeding heart. Pirates understood that reputation preceded them. When Blackbeard's flag appeared, merchants knew exactly who they faced. His reputation for violence, carefully cultivated through selective brutality and theatrical displays, made resistance seem suicidal. He wore burning fuses in his beard during attacks, creating an image of supernatural evil that haunted survivors' accounts. The opening of gun ports delivered another shock. Merchant vessels might carry 6 or 8 cannons. Pirate ships bristled with armament. Blackbeard's Queen Anne's Revenge mounted 40 cannons. The sudden appearance of this firepower, previously hidden behind closed ports, transformed the entire tactical situation. Merchants realized they faced not fellow traders, but floating fortresses. The human element amplified the terror. Where moments before only a dozen men were visible, suddenly 100 pirates crowded the rails. They fired pistols in the air, waved cutlasses, and shouted threats. Pirates knew that merchant sailors, often pressed into service or poorly paid, had little motivation to die defending someone else's cargo. The demand for surrender came immediately. Pirates typically gave merchants one chance to strike their colors. The message was clear: surrender now and live, resist and face massacre. John Rackham, known as Calico Jack, demonstrated how deception could mean survival when ambush plans collapsed. In 1718, his crew anchored in a Cuban bay for supplies and repairs. Their guard was down. Then, disaster. A Spanish warship appeared at the bay's entrance. The Spanish commander made a tactical decision that seemed foolproof. The tide was low, making the bay's entrance too shallow for Rackham's ship to escape. He positioned his warship to block any exit attempt and settled in to wait. Come morning, when the tide rose, he would attack and destroy the pirates at leisure. The Spanish had also captured a small English sloop, which they anchored nearby with minimal guard. This prize seemed irrelevant, too small to threaten a warship already secured under Spanish control. This assumption became their critical error. Rackham recognized his situation's desperation. His ship was trapped, outgunned, and would be destroyed at dawn. Fighting was suicide. Escape was impossible, but deception remained available. He ordered his crew to prepare for an operation requiring absolute silence. Under cover of darkness, Rackham's men lowered small boats and began rowing toward the captured sloop. They wrapped oars in cloth to muffle sound. Men chosen for the mission were those who could swim, in case boats capsized. The approach took 2 hours, covering perhaps half a mile, with frequent stops to ensure they hadn't been detected. The Spanish had posted only 3 guards on the sloop. These men, confident in their warship's protection, weren't particularly alert. Rackham's boarding party killed them silently with knives, preventing any alarm. The pirates then cut the sloop's anchor cable and began sailing it out of the bay, using only minimal sail to avoid noise. Dawn revealed the Spanish commander's humiliation. He ordered his guns to fire on Rackham's original ship, now sitting empty in the bay. cannonballs smashed into an abandoned vessel while Rackham sailed past in the stolen sloop, close enough that Spanish officers could see him, but too far for accurate cannon fire. The pirates even fired a few mocking shots from the sloop's small guns before disappearing beyond range. This escape demonstrated deception's value beyond ambush. Rackham turned certain defeat into victory by exploiting enemy assumptions. The Spanish expected pirates to fight or cower, not to steal their own prize and slip away. This cognitive blindness, assuming enemies will behave predictably, was exactly what pirates counted on. Successful ambushes required information, and pirates developed sophisticated intelligence networks. They cultivated contacts in every major port, corrupt officials who revealed shipping schedules, merchants who described valuable cargoes, sailors who detailed ship weaknesses. Charles Vane understood intelligence's value in both directions. When captured merchant crews were released, he fed them false information about his intended heading. He told one crew he was sailing north to the Carolinas, then immediately turned south toward the Caribbean. Colonial authorities wasted weeks searching empty waters while Vane operated hundreds of miles away. Pirates frequented specific taverns where merchant sailors drank. Buying rounds of rum loosened tongues. A merchant sailor might mention his ship's next voyage, its cargo, or its defensive capabilities. This information, gathered casually over drinks, shaped future ambush plans. Pirates learned which captains would fight and which would surrender, which ships carried medicine chests versus silver, which routes avoided naval patrols. The pirate. Henry every demonstrated intelligence work's importance during his capture of the Ganj-i-Sawai in 1695. He knew this Mughal ship would carry pilgrims returning from Mecca, meaning massive wealth in gold and jewels. He knew its approximate route and timing. Informant networks extended beyond ports. Pirates bribed fishermen to report ship sightings. They paid coastal residents to signal when valuable targets passed. Some maintained relationships with corrupt customs officials who provided manifests showing exactly what each ship carried. This information asymmetry, pirates knowing more about merchant ships than merchants knew about pirates, provided crucial advantage. Counterintelligence mattered equally. Pirates spread misinformation about their numbers, making single ships seem like entire fleets. They circulated stories of extreme brutality to encourage quick surrenders. When Blackbeard blockaded Charleston in 1718, he deliberately released prisoners to spread word of his presence, knowing fear would paralyze commerce more effectively than actual attacks. The intelligence war's sophistication appears in pirates' use of current newspapers. They monitored shipping news, government proclamations, and naval deployments. When newspapers reported valuable shipments or reduced naval patrols, pirates adjusted their operations accordingly. This literacy might seem surprising, but many pirates were former naval sailors or merchants who understood information's value. Pirates transformed ocean geography into tactical advantage. They understood that vast ocean spaces actually contained predictable highways, currents, wind patterns, and navigational requirements that forced ships into specific routes. The Florida Straits exemplified this principle. The powerful Gulf Stream current meant ships traveling from the Caribbean to Europe had to pass through this narrow channel. Pirates positioned themselves at the strait's narrowest points, knowing targets had no alternative route. Spanish treasure fleets, loaded with silver from Mexico and Peru, became predictable prey in these waters. Madagascar's position made it perfect for intercepting East India Company ships rounding Africa. Pirates based there could strike vessels heading to or from India, then retreat to the island's protected harbours. The island offered fresh water, provisions, and repair facilities while remaining beyond European naval control. Shallow draft vessels gave pirates access to areas where naval warships couldn't follow. The Bahamas, with its countless small islands and shallow channels, became a pirate paradise. Pirates memorized every reef, sandbar, and hidden channel. Pursuing warships with deeper drafts and unfamiliar waters faced constant grounding risk. Pirates could disappear into mangrove swamps or hidden coves, emerging days later when danger passed. Weather patterns shaped ambush strategies. Pirates knew seasonal wind changes, hurricane seasons, and calm zones. They positioned themselves where merchants faced difficult sailing conditions, making escape harder. The doldrums near the equator, where winds died completely, became hunting grounds where becalmed merchants couldn't flee approaching threats. Coastal geography offered concealment opportunities. Pirates anchored behind headlands or in river mouths, invisible from sea but positioned to spot passing ships. They used islands to mask their approach, emerging suddenly from behind land masses to surprise targets. Rocky coastlines with numerous inlets provided endless hiding spots for smaller pirate vessels. Navigation limitations created predictable congregation points. Before accurate longitude determination, ships relied on latitude sailing, traveling east or west along specific latitudes. Pirates positioned themselves along these invisible highways, knowing merchants had to pass through. Similarly, the need for fresh water forced ships to stop at known springs and rivers where pirates waited. Not every ambush succeeded. Sometimes merchants fought back. Naval patrols appeared, or weather ruined carefully laid plans. These failures revealed piracy's brutal reality beneath the clever tactics. When the merchant ship Cassandra encountered pirates near Madagascar in 1720, its captain chose resistance. Despite facing superior numbers, the crew fought for hours. The battle destroyed much of the cargo both sides sought to protect. Eventually, pirates prevailed through sheer numbers, but victory came at a cost. Damaged ships, dead crew members, and ruined goods that couldn't be sold. Pirates caught in failed ambushes faced desperate situations. Their ships, built for speed rather than prolonged combat, couldn't match warships in extended battles. Their crews, while numerous, often lacked discipline under sustained fire. When deception failed and escape was impossible, pirates faced the scenarios they'd tried to avoid. Hand-to-hand combat exposed pirates' equipment limitations. While merchant sailors had proper weapons, pirates often made do with agricultural tools converted to weapons. Axes meant for wood cutting, knives designed for rope work. Against trained marines or determined merchants, these improvised weapons proved inadequate. The pirate Stede Bonnet exemplified failed deception's consequences. His inexperience meant his disguises were transparent, his approaches clumsy. When he attempted to ambush well-defended merchants, they recognized the threat and either fled or fought. Bonnet's crew, demoralized by repeated failures, eventually mutinied. He ended his career captured and hanged, his attempts at clever deception having failed completely. Weather could destroy even perfect ambush plans. Pirates positioned for attack might face sudden storms that scattered all vessels. Fog that initially helped concealment could become so thick that targets disappeared entirely. Calm winds left pirates unable to pursue fleeing merchants who used oars to escape. The ultimate failure was capture. Pirates who survived failed ambushes faced trial and execution. The British Admiralty court system processed hundreds of pirate trials during the 1720s. Conviction meant hanging, often at locations visible to arriving ships as warning. Bodies were sometimes displayed in iron cages called gibbets, left to decompose publicly. These failures remind us that piracy, despite its clever tactics and occasional successes, was ultimately a desperate gamble. For every Blackbeard who retired wealthy, dozens of pirates died in failed ambushes, were executed after capture, or simply disappeared at sea when their deceptions weren't quite clever enough. The Golden Age of Piracy ended not because pirates forgot their tactics, but because the world adapted to them. Merchants began sailing in convoys. Naval patrols increased. Insurance companies demanded armed guards. The very success of pirate deceptions forced maritime commerce to evolve defenses that made ambush increasingly difficult. Yet the tactical innovations pirates developed didn't disappear. Military forces studied their techniques. The false flag remained legal in warfare until the 20th century. Intelligence gathering, psychological warfare, and geographic exploitation became standard military doctrine. Pirates, operating outside law and morality, had discovered principles of asymmetric warfare that militaries still employ today. The transformation from harmless vessel to deadly predator, that 60-second reveal that defined pirate ambush, was more than theatrical flourish. It represented a profound understanding of human psychology, economic efficiency, and tactical innovation. These weren't mindless criminals, but calculating strategists who understood that in their violent business, the cleverest deception was worth more than the biggest cannon. The merchant captain who saw that black flag rise had mere seconds to decide his fate. But behind that moment lay years of evolution, from legitimate privateer to hunted pirate, from military tactic to criminal method, from employment to desperation. The anatomy of an ambush was really the anatomy of a transformation, how sanctioned warriors became the sea's most feared predators, one deception at a time.